Hey guys, it is the Hope Daily vlogcast, and good morning to you all, guys. Make sure you say good morning so I know who's watching. Let me just start with giving you a couple of notices, and then we are going to crack on. A couple of things is, guys, the summer holidays are coming up, and therefore some life groups will not be meeting. So please check with your life group leader if your life group is on. I'm holding this and it's a little bit shaky, I know, but check with your life group leader if your life group is on. But we've got some suggested reading. So here's the suggestive reading. There's a book called Elimination of Hurry, which is about how we can be more like Jesus and how we can kind of create more margin within our life. Hey guys, I think there's 4 people watching now. So hey, good morning. There's also a book called Reappearing at Church, and that is about seeking personal renewal and renewal for the church. Hey, Chris Hargreaves, how you doing, buddy? And finally, if you're not much of a reader, we've got a free video course on mental health. It's called Changes That Heal, and that's on Right Now Media. So if you look above you in our announcements, Jamie Haxby has done a video and he's put all the links in. Now, the Changes That Heal course by Dr. Henry Cloud is absolutely excellent. It's based upon his best-selling book. He's a clinical psychologist and Christian leadership kind of coach. And there is a basic course, and the videos are about 4 or 5 minutes long. And there's a more in-depth and advanced course, and the videos are about 40 or 50 minutes long. The other thing I want to say, guys, is at 10:30 we have got our church service. Now, it's going to be streamed online, but there's going to be a live studio audience, and you need to sign up to be a part of that if you want to be involved. And again, to do that, there is a post, I think it's in the announcement section, so you guys can do that. So I just want to read a passage of scripture to you guys, and I want to tell you how this passage of scripture spoke to me and how this passage of scripture can speak to you. Let me go from here. It's Matthew chapter 13. It says, "The same day Jesus went out of the house and he sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat down. And the whole crowd stood on the beach, and he told them many things in parables, saying, A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell among the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, they were scorched, since they had no root. They withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on the good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear." So basically, Jesus is within a section within Matthew's gospel in which, instead of teaching plainly, he begins to teach in parables. Now, he teaches in parables not to illustrate truth. He actually teaches in parables to conceal truth. The parables, and Jesus will say this later on in 13, he said that he teaches in parables so that the scripture might be fulfilled. You will hear but never understand, and you will see but never perceive. For this people's hearts have grown dull, and their ears can barely hear, and their eyes are closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and turn, and I would heal them. So Jesus is teaching in parables, and the reason why he's teaching in parables is only people who are genuinely interested and people who want to genuinely pursue him and search after him will understand that which God would have them understand. So I was reading that, and I was thinking about a couple of weeks ago where we had a sack of potatoes, and we had the sack of potatoes within the garage, and we were kind of working our way through all these potatoes during lockdown. It was a huge big sack. I bought the sack because Abby wanted me to get some potatoes, and to get a small bag, it was like a couple of quid. But to get a giant sack of potatoes, it was like a tenner or something like that. I can't remember. So I thought, obviously, that's the Indianness in me. I'd go and get a sack of potatoes. So we've been working our way through these potatoes during lockdown, and we kind of keep them in the garage. As we were kind of going towards the end, some of the potatoes were beginning to kind of sprout. So what I decided to do, and with my son Timothy and Benjamin, what I decided to do was to plant them in the garden. So I did what you're supposed to do. I dug a hole in the ground. I began to put the potatoes, like I distanced them. And then what I did is I put soil on the top, and I put the soil slightly above the ground, so it gave the potatoes a great opportunity to grow. And that's the way, apparently, you're supposed to grow potatoes, at least according to Google. But when Jesus shares the parable of the sower, he does it the opposite way in which you are supposed to sow grain. In fact, they probably would have looked at Jesus, who is a carpenter and not a farmer. They probably would have looked at Jesus as he spoke this parable as if he was insane, because what Jesus does with the seed in this parable is he scatters it around wastefully. He says, look, some of it's going to fall upon the ground and it's going to get eaten up by the birds of the air. Later on, he will say that's the gospel seed that gets eaten up by Satan. He says some of it is going to fall on the shallow soil. It's like really, really rocky. It's, the farmer hasn't taken the time and the trouble to take up the stones and to make sure that soil is fertile. He said the gospel seed that falls there, it grows quickly, but because it has no depth, the roots don't go down deeply. And that's like the person who receives the gospel with joy, and the growth is quick, but the growth does not last. And then he says some of it falls amongst the thorns and the thistles, and the seed is choked out by the cares of other things. And then some of it falls on good soil and produces 30, 60, and 100-fold. And it basically talks about the way in which people kind of react to the gospel. There are basically 4 ways in which they can react to the gospel. But the interesting thing that spoke to me from this parable is the way in which he does it, how extravagant and wasteful he is with the scattering of seed, which is completely the opposite of how efficient we are when we are planting things. And it got me thinking on the fact that actually when it comes to the spreading of gospel seed, we are dealing with the issue of human hearts, and human hearts are unseen and they are unpredictable, and therefore we just don't know when the seed is going to bear fruit. We don't know, so we just have to scatter. We scatter through maybe handing out gospel tracts. We scatter by having conversations with people about Jesus. We scatter by, our social media presence. We scatter through the way we are in the workplace. We kind of scatter through having people around for meals and opening up our lives to them and allowing them to open up their lives to us. And although it might seem wasteful for some, that's the way Jesus does it, and that's the way we are called to do it. I think back of my own life about some of the people who I've seen kind of respond to the gospel and some of the people who I haven't. And I'm amazed because some of the people who have responded to the gospel are the kind of people you would never expect to respond. I had a mate called Sean growing up, and Sean was a heroin addict. And he was a bit of a lad. He was into shoplifting and, Anyway, when me and my twin brother and my sister got saved, within a few weeks, my mate Sean had got saved too. I think about, there was a guy in our last congregation, and his wife, she got saved within the Anglican Church, and before they would baptize her, she had to go on a pre-baptismal course. So she goes on this pre-baptismal course, and it's kind of like an alpha course. She's kind of learning about the kind of basics of the Christian faith, and he would drop her off at the church, and then he would pick her up, but he kind of wouldn't go with her and would never go on a Sunday. But because he was quite proud, he didn't want her knowing more about a subject than he knew, and he also wanted ammunition to be using against her. So he decided, when he was going around charity shops, he decided to buy a New Testament. and he put the New Testament in their bathroom, in the kind of there was kind of like a cupboard underneath the sink, and he would put it there. And every time he was using the bathroom, he would open it up and read a few pages. Anyway, he read his way to John's Gospel, and which is a bit crazy, but he read his way to John's Gospel, and whilst he was on the toilet, he said he felt the Spirit kind of descend into the toilet, right? Which is crazy. And he was convicted of his sin, and he gave his life to Jesus. Now, who would have thought that someone like that, in a way like that, would be saved? But that's his story, and that's and he later would go on to preach within the church and become one of the elders of the church. So I just want to say to you guys, I know that sometimes we are very conscious on how effective we can be. We can be very kind of looking at what's working and what's not working, and there's a place for that. You know, John's Gospel tells us that Jesus will prune for the sake of fruitfulness. So you know, if something is not working, if it generally isn't working, or people generally are not interested, Jesus didn't sit and bargain with people. If people weren't interested, Jesus would walk on and he would move on. But there is something to be said about scattering gospel seed everywhere. So I just want to give that to you guys as an encouragement. Scatter gospel seed, be reckless with gospel seed, and who knows where it might bear fruit. So if you guys got any questions or comments, you guys can stick that in the comment section below. If not, guys, I'm going to let you go and get on with your Saturday. Hopefully the weather is going to pick up, so because it looks pretty grim here. So God bless you guys. See you, Barbara. See ya, Rianne. See you, Chris. God bless you.